Welcome to your Daily Dose of Theological German. We are on installment number 14 of our book here, Hermeneutics of the Torah. And today's sentence is also a little bit easier, like yesterday's, but has a few things that we can look at and talk about. So here it is. Thus, wird, this is the verb werden, which often, as is the case here, functions as an auxiliary. If it was just the only verb, you would translate it as to become, but here it's an auxiliary. If it's complemented by an infinitive verb, then it would have to be a future tense. But if it's complemented by a participle, as is the case here, then it's going to be a passive construction. So this is the verb wählen. And of course, with the ge prefix here, you have clearly an indication of a past participle. So this is going to be something like is chosen is how you're going to want to say this. The subject you don't get to till down here because you've got some adverbial modifiers first. So the subject is down here, and that is going to be the second chapter of the book of Proverbs. Okay, so the second chapter of the book of Proverbs is chosen, or then you can put in these modifiers. First of all, as the departure point of the investigation. And then you have here in brackets chapter 2. And so there's kind of some amusing ambiguity there because he's talking about the second chapter of Proverbs, but what's in brackets here, chapter 2, is actually referring to chapter 2 of his own book, which is the chapter in which he begins the investigation with the departure point of the second chapter of Proverbs. A couple more quick comments about some of these things here. The adverb here, zunächst, you can see is somehow related to the preposition zu and the adverb nächst, meaning something like next. So I translated that as first of all, or to start with, and that's because it is next with respect to what just came before, and next in that context does kind of mean first. It's only first in the sense that you've transitioned now, and so it's a new departure point in the discourse or the discussion, and so next is the first with respect to what preceded. And so you will find if you look up this word in the dictionary, actually, that the most common kind of usage actually is something like first or first of all. And you can see in rare cases it actually will need to be translated something like next. But here it really is sort of the first of a new kind of part of the discourse. And so that's why I said first of all. And then here, this point of departure, again, you can look this up in the dictionary and you will see that it means starting point or point of departure, but it's just sort of interesting to think about how it got put together. It's a compound word, Punkt meaning point, Ausgang meaning like an exit or a way out. And so you're not going to say a way of exit because you're not trying to get out of anything here. You're actually trying to start a study. And so you're going to say point of departure in the context. You can see why the word would be used that way. It's kind of interesting, though, just to kind of, as you're building your vocabulary, to see how these words come about, how they're related. So if you think about the verb ausgehen, which is a word that means exit, and that's kind of a separable verb. Gehen, of course, meaning to go. Aus, a preposition meaning something like out. And so to go out, and Ausgang then is formed from that verb as a noun to mean the way out or the exit. And so you can see how these things are all kind of related, and it should be helpful to your memorization of vocabulary to be putting these things in categories together and seeing how they, both in terms of the actual formations of the words themselves and semantically, how they're related to these other ideas. So there you go. Pretty easy sentence, and I hope you found that helpful.